fans, we got UFC versus Aljamain Sterling. You know, Aljamain Sterling did an interview with Ariel Helwani, I believe, and he mentioned things about how he almost feels like the UFC. It just really sounded like the UFC has it out for him in his eyes. Like they're like when he made that comment regarding like how TJ Dillashaw is not having too much time in the UFC embedded series. You know, and how they are trying. All of a sudden, they had this match lined up with Peter Yan versus Sugar Sean O'Malley, and the winner of that becoming #1 contender. And now all of a sudden, they're looking at Henry Cejudo and such like that. So Aljamain feels like there's some kind of conspiracy going on against them. Now I want to know, do you guys think so? I don't think so. I don't think so. I do believe that the UFC possibly, you got to think of this as UFC as a business as well. Because, you know, if you are not as entertaining, not as much of a draw, not as much of a action-packed fighter, then yeah, you got to also see it as a business-wise, because if you're going to hang around someone's back, if you're going to wrestle them, you're going to hold them to the ground and all that stuff, then yeah, it's hard to build a pay-per-view around that. It's hard to build a main event around that. It's hard to do something like that because at the end of the day, people are not going to really want to tune into that. We tune into fights. Now, we're not saying it has to be stand-up only. We're not saying that, oh, it has to be purely just on the feed, back and forth battles. No, we're not saying that at all. We're saying that it needs to be like a mixed martial arts, because that's what it is. It has to be mixed martial arts, not just holding someone to the ground and waiting for them and looking for openings, because unfortunately, that's Aljamain's style. He even calls himself that. He prides himself that. He calls himself the human backpack. And unfortunately, it makes you good, but it doesn't sell. It really doesn't. People that sell, like Sean O'Malley with his action-packed fights, that sells. TJ Dillashaw, even regarding with all his crazy circumstances that he had going on over there, that sells. You know, those fights sell. But what Aljo does, it doesn't sell. So I don't see it as conspiracy. None the least. I do see, like, yeah, they prefer to have someone like a Sean O'Malley, who is a superstar, who has action-packed fights, who has fun knockouts, who has all these different fighting abilities that can easily sell a pay-per-view, want him as a champion, but I'm not saying it's a conspiracy whatsoever. You know, unfortunately for Aljo, it has nothing to do with conspiracy. It has everything to do with your fighting style. You know, yeah, I mean, are they appreciating you're a champion? I'm sure they are, but at the end of the day, would they prefer it? No, probably not. They want someone they can sell, and unfortunately, they cannot sell Aljamain in the human backpack as well as they could a Sean O'Malley or even a Peter Yan, because Peter Yan was an action fighter. You know, that fight that he had with those fights he had with like Uriah Faber and Jose Aldo, and even that first fight with Aljamain, where he was just pretty much, you know, destroying him for 4 rounds up until that illegal knee. So yeah, that's what sells more. I'm not saying ground game doesn't sell more, because Khabib, that sells pretty good. You know, that was very entertaining. There's a way you can be entertaining and be a ground fighter as well. But when you're just holding, like we saw with TJ, like we saw with that second year Peter Yan fight, it's very hard, very difficult. So do I think it's in the like some kind of conspiracy against him? No. I just feel like it's his fighting style. I feel like it's the way he promotes himself in a way. Like, I don't see him much of a trash talker. I see him more just basing around all conspiracies. That's just my personal opinion, guys. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you guys think? Do you think there's a conspiracy against Aljo? Do you think the UFC is doing their best to not give Aljo the fights that he wants and try to take the fight away from him and the belt away from him? Or is it just the fact that it is his fighting style that doesn't necessarily live up to the hype, I guess you could say. Live up to him being a champion and him being able to sell pay-per-view on his own, being a main event on his own. Do you think that's possibly it? I would definitely like to know in the comments, guys. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.